Good morning, biology students. This week we are going to be focusing on a process called meiosis. I did notice that there was quite a lot of you who did not do the previous karyotype activity. It would be in your best interest to go back and to go through that PowerPoint and do that activity before going on with meiosis. So that being said, I did attach the guided notes for you. If you are able to, you can go ahead and print that off. If not, just go ahead and grab a piece of paper. I can wait. And the great thing about this recording is that you can pause it and go and grab a piece of paper and a pencil so that we can talk about this really awesome process. All right, so let's go ahead and start. So one of the things that meiosis does is that it actually is the reason that we create cells with only half of our chromosomes. So meiosis has cells that have half of the DNA from a mom and a dad, and that's called haploid. Just think half. And this process is just specifically just for the sex cells. This just creates the egg and the sperm in our bodies, because if we want to create a baby, we only want to give our baby half of our chromosomes because it's going to join with the other half from our partner. So once you can get an egg and a sperm and it comes together, it should have a full set of chromosomes, which we've talked about that a human has 46 chromosomes. So in order for us to have viable, healthy babies, we have to have only half of the chromosomes in each gamete. So the egg and the sperm should only have half of those chromosomes. So what's half of 46? 23. I know, very difficult math. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to go through the process of meiosis, and I'm going to do a lot of abbreviations because we've already talked about a very similar process, mitosis. Mitosis goes on in our everyday cells, but it still goes through interphase, prophase, metaphase, anaphase, telophase, cytokinesis. But meiosis is just a little bit different in that it goes through this process twice because it has to cut it down in half. We only want our gametes to have half the number of chromosomes. So in this picture right here, you'll see that there's meiosis 1 and meiosis 2. So on meiosis 1, that I stands for interphase. And I'm just going to put a circle for our cell. And interphase is where the cell duplicates its DNA. So that's what the 2 times means. It says we're going to duplicate our DNA. And so we had 46 chromosomes, and now we're at 92 because we duplicated it. So what comes after interphase? Prophase. And during prophase, the nucleus disappears and our chromosomes kind of condense because it was chromatin and now it condenses into those nice organized chromosomes. And there's also something really interesting that just goes on in prophase of meiosis 1. It's called crossing over, and we'll get to that in an additional slide. So prophase, our nucleus goes away, our chromosomes condense, we still have 92. Metaphase, all those nice little chromosomes go along and line up on the equator, still at 92. Anaphase, they're going to come apart. And then at telophase, the nuclear envelope reforms around each new set. And so at the end of telophase, we have 2 cells. So this is primarily what we think of when we are talking about mitosis. And we're left with 2 cells with 46. But remember, if we're talking about sex cells, we don't want to have 46 chromosomes. We have to do it in half. So now we're going to go into meiosis 2, and we're not going to have an interphase. There's no interphase because we don't want to duplicate it again. We want to cut it in half. So we're going to go directly into prophase. And notice that in meiosis 2, we have 2 cells going through this process. Okay, so meiosis 1, there's only 1 cell and it splits. And then meiosis 2, there are 2 cells that split. Okay, so our nucleus disappears. Metaphase 2, they all line up on the middle. Anaphase 2, they're all going to spread apart. And then telophase 2, you can see that our nuclear envelope has reformed. So what we're left with here is now we have 4 cells with 23 chromosomes each, and that's what we want. We want to make these gametes with only 23 chromosomes, so that when we decide to go and have a baby and we find a partner, that egg and that sperm, they'll come together and they'll make 46, which is a human, and that's pretty cool. Okay, so one thing to remember, mitosis occurs in regular body cells to make new cells, such as when we hurt ourselves or if we're growing. And meiosis is only to create offspring. This only occurs in sex cells. And one interesting thing is that meiosis happens for girls. This all happens in utero. Like all of our eggs that we're ever going to have are already born with us. So this happens when we're still in our mom's tummy. Whereas men, they can create sperm all the time. So we have our sex cells, our gametes. The sperm and the eggs are created by meiosis. We start with a cell that has all of the chromosomes, and when it has a full set of chromosomes, it's called diploid. And that just means me as a person, I have a full set of chromosomes. I got 23 from my mom and I got 23 from my dad. So I am a diploid human being. But when we end with meiosis, we should have 4 cells that are haploid. They only have half the chromosomes. And when a male sperm and a female egg unite, it forms a new cell called a zygote. A zygote is the very first cell that ever creates our body. And from there, it's just going to divide and divide and divide and turn into a human. So remember, we started with 1 cell and then we ended with 4 cells. So the cell divided twice. And so each cell that is created from meiosis is different from the parent. It only has half of the original chromosome number. So just in brief summary, our parent cell had 46. We duplicated it. We separated it so that we had 46, but then we're going to split it again. We're not going to replicate. We're just going to split it again to create our sperm and our eggs so that they only have 23 chromosomes each. So how is this different from mitosis? Again, mitosis is only in our body cells, our eye cells, stomach cells, liver cells. We're going through mitosis all the time. So it only duplicates and then separates once. So mitosis is 1 split and we're done. And notice that the parent cell and the daughter cells have exactly the same number of chromosomes. And they're exactly the same DNA. 2 identical daughter cells.